Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 89 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Today is a special treat because on the show, I have none other than the legendary Bas Rutten. And for most of you listening, I'm sure you're familiar with Bas, but in case you're one of the few who might not be, Bas is a legend in the martial arts world and was a professional fighter for many years, winning multiple championships and titles, including King of Pancrase and UFC champion. He was also inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Since retiring from fighting, he's become a highly successful fight commentator, TV host, including the very popular show Inside MMA, which he co-hosted with Kenny Rice, film and television actor, including movies such as Here Comes the Boom and Mall Cop with Kevin James. Bas is always lively, interesting, and entertaining, and I literally could have talked with him all day. So I know you're going to enjoy this interview. After the interview, stay tuned for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. So without further ado, let's talk to Bas. So I'm speaking with Bas El Guapo Rutten, legend in the martial arts world as well as entertainment extraordinaire. So welcome to the show, Bas.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show because I've been a fan of yours for many years. So I appreciate you taking time to talk to me today.
Yeah, no, love it.
So first things first, Bas, the important thing, your nickname, El Guapo, which means the handsome one. Where'd you get that nickname?
Well, I always called myself the most handsome fighter in MMA. That was how it started. And then in 2000, at the Prize Fighting Championships, we were having breakfast, and Tina Shamrock and Ken Shamrock, they were married at the time. Tina is from Mexico. And one of my favorite movies is The Three Amigos. So we were talking about the movie The Three Amigos, and I say, oh, by the way, what does that mean? El Guapo, because that's the main bad guy, and he's a very nice guy. And she says that means the handsome one. And I go, oh, that's so funny. And then I believed it was Kevin Randleman who started because he got up and he said, okay, Guapo, well, I guess I'll see you later. And that was it. And then Mark Coleman started and everybody suddenly started calling me Guapo.
And that was it.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I love it. One of the things I've enjoyed watching with you over the years, following you in your careers, is your personality, your kind of wild and crazy personality and your antics. So I was just wondering, has that ever got you into any trouble?
Oh, all the time. My poor mother. I mean, I had a whole bunch of schools that I went through when I was a kid. I was, that's what they thought, ADD. Well, what happened was I was so sick as a kid. I had horrible skin disease and severe asthma attacks, and then normal asthma on a regular basis as well. So I got picked on a lot. And for me, it was a way, I think, to get attention, to be the class clown, and at least that I get some feedback from people, because otherwise they were just spitting me out. So I think that's where it started.
Interesting. So it grew from that need, but you kind of really made it work for you over the years.
Yeah, with me, always everything I handle with jokes, whatever I do. And it's logic that people do that. Sometimes, when you're in incredible pain, you laugh because those emotions are very close to each other. And I refuse to cry. I don't like to do that. Well, but, like my dog died in October. That was very hard for me. Like yesterday, it was so funny. I was doing a seminar with Dwayne Ludwig in Austin, and we were somewhere, and we walked into a store, and this guy said, "Oh, you look like a person who never shed a tear in his life." I said, "Well, actually, in October, I was bawling my eyes out when my dog passed away." So, but that's how you deal with it. You're laughing, and the glass is always half full. And I always thought with my skin disease, I had in my hands and my arms and my neck, my face. So it was ugly, but I also understood that there's people who have it, who are completely covered. There's always one person who has it worse than you. That's what I always thought, and that's what kept me sane.
Interesting. So you use the humor as kind of a mask and to protect yourself, but you also worked beyond that. And it sounded like you still, even through all that and what you went through, you had a pretty positive attitude.
Yeah, I think you need to. You can lay down and you can give up, or you can say, no, you know what, I'm going to work with this, and I'm going to still make it work. I was very focused on being somebody. I remember my mother when she screamed at me because I did something wrong again, of course. I think I drove the car for like only 10 meters. I drove it back. I drove the door out, because the door wasn't locked. And then I got back in the garage while the door was open, so I drove the door out. She said, "You can't even drive 10 meters, you tried to joyride with the car." You see, and it was just, comedy is, I always did things wrong.
Yeah, but hopefully you always learn from it, yeah?
Yeah, also, my mother has a funny story. She came to pick me up one time, and the class was crazy, and there were other mothers standing outside. They were looking inside the classroom, and one of the mothers looked at my mom. She says, "Oh my God, can you imagine that guy? That one is yours?" And my mother goes, "Yeah, that's mine. That one is mine."
Oh, that's wild. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I know one place your personality is evident is in your old videos, which I really love, the Bas Rutten street defense. So I wanted to ask you, was it as much fun making those as it was for us watching them?
I worked with a company who was a bad company at the time. They kind of screwed me over on some deal, and I was coming out with the Bas Rutten big books of combat, like over 6,500 pictures, like the biggest instructional books there are. And we promised the first 300 people to get a street fighting book. But now I start getting in trouble with this guy. He screwed me over, and I didn't want to do it for him anymore. But I promised the people, 300 people. So I said, let's do something that we can do faster. Why don't we shoot a video? I wrote loosely a script, and I said, I will ad-lib the rest, and then we just start. So everything was a little bit at the top of my head. What I didn't realize is that I always make sound effects, and
Right.
Nobody ever told me that. So once I saw that clip, because it's an hour 45, pretty intense DVD, but all the sound effects, they cropped that together in that 4-minute clip that people saw on YouTube. And dude, it got 90% of every job that I had in my life.
Wow.
After that came out. It was pretty much because of that. I tried to contact that guy 3 times. I said, obviously you're a fan. Pick out everything you want on my website. I sent it to you. I mean, you gave me a lot of work, like video games, Cartoon Network. I mean, You name it. Commercials, all because of that. So yeah, it was hilarious. When I saw it the first time, I was literally crying. I had tears in my eyes from laughing.
It's awesome. I loved the sound effects and all that. It's just really, really great. But speaking of real self-defense in the street, though, you were actually a bouncer for some time, right?
Yeah, I've been for a while. That's not the smartest idea, right? But nowadays, I think it's way more dangerous than at the time. But at the time already, it started getting worse. But if you got good partners you work with, and I was the guy they liked because I could fight, but I was also known for, well, if there's a situation, 9 out of 10 times we're not going to fight because I talk them out of it. I'm very good with talking and with people, and I take them to the side, give them a beer. Come on, let's go over the situation. What happened? You looked at my wife. Well, actually, that's a compliment. Did he touch your wife? No. I said, come on, man. You should be happy. That means you're dating a hot wife. And then they start thinking, and I say, okay, you want to be able to do it? And boom, suddenly the fight is over. Now they're kind of actually enjoying it because they got a beautiful wife. I said, oh, well, if he oversteps and he grabs your wife and he does something, then I can understand that you get angry. Yeah. But man, just looking at her, come on, man, that's a compliment.
Yeah, that's perfect. Reframe. Just shift it to a different way of looking at it, and it becomes, oh, that's a compliment. That's brilliant.
It's hard. It's what I do in the car also. When I get out of my car with people go, oh, shit, here we go. Like my wife thinks. But I tell my wife, I say, listen, you've been with me 30 times that I get out of my car. And I just walk to the people with my hands up. I say, listen, I just want to talk. I said, but let's go over the situation, what just happened. You honked the horn for like 15 seconds behind me because the light turned green and I didn't leave immediately after 2 seconds. It's kind of stupid, right? And then they look at me and they go, yeah, I'm sorry. You see, that's the only thing I'm saying. And then I get in my car and I go, I never go out for a fight. I always go and talk to them and make them see that what they're doing is stupid. Or like somebody keeps honking the horn because I didn't see him. And then I get out of the car and say, do you think I saw you? Do you really think I did this on purpose? No, of course not. I say, so why are you honking the horn? You make never a mistake. Well, you're the perfect one, but let me give you a hand. I mean, I thought Jesus and Mary were the only ones who never made a mistake, but apparently I found another person. And then they see how stupid they are. Then they realize, yeah, everybody makes a mistake. And then hopefully the next time they won't do it. You know, it's such a, if you do it to the wrong person too, in the wrong place, that could be a whole different outcome. You know, somebody can pull you out of the car, they can shoot you nowadays for a stupid traffic. So, you know, just hold. People don't do things on purpose. You know, it's the world is not against you. That's what people always think. It's very weird how the people are wired. It's like with tweets. You get 500 great tweets and then you get one negative one. You forget about the 500 great tweets you had. You focus on that one annoying text. And I go, dude, it's just somebody's opinion. You know, you like blue, I like green, whatever. But once it gets bigger, like politics or religion, now suddenly people, you need to do what they do, you know? And I go, no, let everybody be free, dude. Relax.
So true. So true. So many people are in reactionary mode, and just if they could just take a couple of seconds, take a deep breath and just think and then react from, you know, a mindful place instead of just react. That'd be a lot better for sure.
It is. Take it, but they say count to 10, and people will be amazed. It's what I say to all my friends and my cousins and everybody. You know, if somebody writes something really annoying to you, do not write back immediately. Let it go for a day, because the response you do next, what you can do. What I say, tell them what you want to write them. Write it in a Word doc, but don't send it. And then the next day, read back what you wanted to write him. I'm 100% sure that at least 40% you're going to edit out, because now you're not as angry anymore. And most of the time, you're not even going to send it anymore because you realize it's a stupid thing. Why did I get so angry? It's people think it's personal if you tell them, oh, I'm a Republican or I'm a Catholic. No, it's not personal. We all make our own decisions. Let people be people.
So true. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your fight career. I remember you way back in the Pancrase days in Japan, where you won the title of King of Pancrase multiple times. So what was it like in those days for you, Bas, and being part of that organization in that era?
It was the most amazing thing for me. It really was. You have to understand, we always used to go, I'm from Holland originally, and we used to go on vacation, but in Europe. So if we go to Italy, yeah, that's a 9-hour drive. We're in Italy. If we go to Paris, it's only 4 hours. We're in Paris. So we drove everywhere. So I'd never been on a plane, and my first plane ride was 13 hours from Holland. It's 13 hours to Japan. So that by itself was already crazy. And then coming in Japan, and then do the fight, and the next day people, like 1 out of 10 people, 2 out of 10 people would stop on the street, like bow or do something. And I had no clue what was going on. And then I realized the magazines, the newspapers, there were pictures in there with me and the splits hanging, and then my opponent knocked out on the ground, you know. Nice. And I go, oh, wow, this is so crazy. It's so big here. You know, I remember spending a lot of money talking to my wife as well. And there was also another thing, because I put the guy in the hospital. He didn't wake up. And it was a very scary time for me at that moment, because I thought, you know, if this is something going to happen to him, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I was kind of freaking out, but thankfully he came by and everything was good. I'd actually fought him again. It was my shortest fight against him and my longest fight, because the first punch in my rematch, I hit his skull. He came suddenly forward and I broke my hand on the first shot. So I think with Pancrase, with the rules that they had at the time, I submitted him 5 times, because 4 times he was able to grab the rope and I had to let go. You know, that's like, counts like an 8 count. You know, so your point has been taken away. So then at the moment when he grabs the rope and I let go and the fight continues, at the end of the fight, they say, okay, he grabbed the rope, so he lost. You know, now I let him grab the rope because it was a 30-minute fight, 30 minute at the time when we fought. It was 28-minute fight, and the fifth, I submitted him 5 times in a row.
Wow. Incredible. Any other matches that stand out in your mind as just being really memorable from that era?
Yeah. The most memorable for me is my rematch with Funaki. He was the first person I lost to in my 3rd fight. And then I had a rematch with him, and at that time I was a complete different fighter. Now I understood the ground game. Now I got everything, and I really and then he made the mistake also to come just before the fight. He walks to my corner, right in front of my face. He slits his throat with his thumb. No. And dude, I almost lost it there. I look at my manager. I said, I'm going to annihilate him now. So you gotta stay calm. I said, don't you worry, I'll be calm. But if I nail him, if he gets in, if I daze him, I'm gonna go to town. And that's what happened. So for me that was a really great fight. But for Funaki it was a really great fight because it was a movie. It was like I would knock him out, he would lay down, and then the whole audience would start Funaki, and this was the Tokyo Budokan, the Nippon Budokan.
Yeah.
It's a famous place. That's where Ali fought. What's it? It's the pro wrestler Antonio Inoki, and it's where Cheap Trick. I want you to want me. Everybody knows the Budokan. Right. And then he got up and he started cheering to the audience, and then boom, I knocked him down again, and then again Funaki. And every time the audience started chanting, and the guy got up. So finally, I grabbed him by his head, by the hair also. And I just drilled a knee in his face as hard as I could, and that was it. That was the end of the fight. Nice. But it was a fight. It was a great fight, great for him, and people nowadays still say that for Funaki, that also was one of his best fights.
Incredible. Those are great memories, man. Great memories. And then this led you later to the UFC, where you became UFC champion and were inducted to the UFC Hall of Fame. So I recently read where you had your 20-year anniversary, I guess like last week, the 20-year anniversary of your UFC debut. So congrats on that.
Wow, crazy, huh?
Yeah, time flies, right?
Yeah, time flies. Oh, no, it was 18. And somebody said, why
18.
Didn't they do it? Why didn't they do it at 20?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So what stands out in your mind about your time in the UFC and some of those days?
Just, those days it was different. It was, we did the weigh-in was in a hotel room. I mean, my friends were there, his friends, and that was it. Now it's in front of 7,000 people. There was no weight class. When I came, that was actually when they created two weight classes. It was called heavyweight and middleweight, I believe. It was 200 pounds and under and 200 pounds and over. And I was doing the heavyweight. And for me, I was actually too light. They wouldn't allow me. I was there with my jeans standing on the weigh scale. And I just trained in Colorado, so I was dehydrated, I guess. I was 197. And he said, well, you can't fight, but it's not going to be for the title, boss. You need to be over 200 pounds. So I drank all the waters that my buddies were drinking at the weigh-in. And then I got back on the scale, and I was 203. I overdid it. I drank 3 pounds extra, I guess. I didn't want to take a risk because I had only one shot. But that made it a title fight. And then the whole thing with Kevin Randleman, man, it was so funny. We go into an elevator. I'm going into an elevator. It opens up, and there's Randleman, and he doesn't get out. He needs to go up, but whatever. He needs to go with me. So I'm getting in the elevator. We're the only two guys in the elevator. This is my opponent that I'm fighting next day. And I'm looking at the door, and he looks at the door. Well, we can see each other, the reflection. And he says suddenly, you know what? I want to wish you all the best for tomorrow. I said, I appreciate that. Thank you. You too. Good. And then it was quiet again. And he said, you know what? If you keep your feet on the ground, meaning if you don't kick me, I won't take you down. I said, oh, that sounds very interesting. So we'll see about that. Right. So then the fight starts, and he leaves the thing. The next day the fight starts, and the first thing he does is he baits me. I think he completely set me up here. So he starts hitting his thigh, and he goes, come on, man, give me a low kick. Like he's challenging me. So now I'm confused. I go, like, wait a minute. Didn't you say that if I wouldn't kick you? And my game plan was not to kick him anyway, because I knew he's a great wrestler. He's going to take me down. But that smart guy, what he did is that I made a low kick. Right away, I thought, okay, he thinks I'm going to give him a low kick. So I'm going to fake a low kick, but I'm going to transition it into a front kick. So if he shoots on me, I'm going to kick him square in the face, right? So I did that. I gave a low kick, and right away it went to a front kick. And somehow he moved backwards. And that I never expected that. So I go like, wait a minute. He moves away from my kicks. Oh, okay. Let's start kicking. So then I gave him a kick, and immediately he took me down. So I think it was a very smart thing that he did. I think he did it on purpose, like challenging me like that and then moving out of the way. And the second time, yeah, he just got me on the ground.
Oh man, that's great! What a beast he was. I remember that fight, and before it, I was like, man, I'm concerned for Bas because he was just a monster and running through people at the time. But what an incredible fight that was between you guys. And you ultimately
it was crazy.
Came
yeah,
out with the victory.
The Yeah, it was a very close fight though, and he really did some. He really beat me up in the first 4 minutes. My nose was broke. I lost the contact lens, and I have really bad eyes, like -5.5. Yeah, not now anymore because I got it all fixed. But at the time, so one eye I couldn't see anything because it was blocked. The other eye I didn't have a contact. I cannot even see when you close your eyes almost if I'm fighting you. So that's how bad it was. I was swallowing blood the whole time, and then I had to stand up. They asked me if I wanted to continue. I said, okay, let's go. Let's keep fighting then. And that's where I suddenly slowly started. I gave him a liver kick, and he told me later also, he said, yeah, that was it. I really felt that one. So that's where he slowed down, and that's when I started working with from the bottom with elbows, and I started to gathering points, hopefully that I could stop him. But yeah, that guy was an animal.
He was an animal. It really speaks to your heart and your resiliency, the way you weathered the storm and took all that abuse, and then came back, and man, you really did a lot of damage from the bottom. You really started tearing him up pretty well, for sure.
Yeah, and another great thing that came out is we became great friends. My whole family went to the wedding from him and Elizabeth, his wife, and we had so much fun there, man. It was so good. These big kids. She's Italian. She had an Italian family. These big guys. And the next day, everybody was hungover at the pool, and then suddenly the kids started playing water volley. And then an adult jumped in, another adult, and boom, soon enough, there were two teams with kids and adults all playing against each other, and we went full on. We're trying to protect the kids, of course, and let them play the game, but we were kind of the people that, we were just messing around the whole time. And I remember also one of the brothers from Elizabeth was attacking me. He was a bouncer in New York, and he attacked me, and I got him in a standing side choke right away. And I'm laughing, and everybody's looking at me. I go 5, 4, 3, and suddenly the guy plops down on the water. So I bring him back up, and he goes, "Dude, I've been a bouncer. I've been over 2,000 fights. I've never had anything like this." I say, "You should train jiu-jitsu. You should start learning submission because that's a pretty basic move, and it's a great move to use at the door as well."
It's wonderful, wonderful. You mentioned the liver kick. You kind of pretty much made liver strikes famous, or at least for most of the world who weren't really into those. And liver punches, liver kicks. How did that become such an important tool for you, Bas?
Well, I was a black belt in karate, and I decided because there was no strikes to the face, and I didn't like that. I wanted to compete, and I realized that Thai boxing would be great. So I went to a Thai boxing gym, and all the while I was doing Taekwondo and karate, and then I was doing Thai boxing. And of course, I was the man. Nobody ever beat me, and not the gyms where I was, So what happened was that I come in there, and I decide to spar against an A-class Thai boxer. Osman was his name, I remember. And since my hands were low from karate, as soon as you would hit my head, of course, I overcommitted with my defense. My hands flew up too fast, which would expose my body. Now, he, of course, being the pro, he saw immediately that if he would give me another headshot, my hands would fly up and my body would be exposed. So he dropped me with a liver shot. And I've never been down by a body shot. No with a kick, no nothing. And that really got in my head. I go, oh, man, this is the worst thing because you're fully aware of the pain. There's nothing you can do. You can't defend yourself. You're crippled, So that's where the love of the liver shot came from. And then, of course, Ramon Dekkers, he was always my favorite Thai boxer. For pound, still, I think that guy goes in history as being the best guy ever. Unfortunately, he passed away also a couple of years ago. But he started dropping like the Thais in Thailand, the liver shots. And I go, man, I got to really focus on this because that's a weapon that a lot of people are using. And especially later in the rounds, it's a perfect weapon to use.
Yeah, so devastating. And you honed it to perfection.
But that's the thing, you're just doing it a lot. I was teaching a seminar in Austin this week at the Honor Academy together with Dwayne Ludwig, and I give him combinations. And we always use that line that Bruce Lee said, right? He said, I'm not afraid of a guy who knows 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of a guy who knows one kick, but did it 10,000 times, and that's with my combinations. I said, this might look like a weird combination. There's an 8-punch combination. You think, man, when can I throw that? I said, but after every workout or 3 times a week, if you do this combination for 2 rounds of 5 minutes on a back after your workout, you ingrain them in your body. And then when the moment presents itself, it flows out automatically. Brrr, boom. And most of the time, those combinations that I rehearsed before, came up in a fight, and I would win a fight by knockout because I would focus on those combinations. So it's just about doing it a lot. And on top of that, you have to make sure film yourself, because we all think that we are greater than we really are. So I would always film myself like once a month in a workout, and then I would realize, okay, oh man, I thought I was turning my upper body enough, but I can do it way more on my left punch, way more with my left kicks. You start seeing the things that you do wrong. A lot of people don't do that, and I really advise, especially to pros, to do that, because you'll be amazed how many things you can correct.
I think that's great insight. Two things you mentioned there, doing it, drilling it enough until it becomes, in your muscle memory, in your nervous system, where you don't have to think about it. You just perform when it counts. And then filming yourself, I think it's a very underutilized tool, no matter what your art that you're into. I agree with you. I think it is an invaluable tool. You get so much information and insight from watching yourself on video.
That's it. Yeah, because, this was a funny thing, if you can look from above and you see yourself, imagine that you could see yourself treating you, you would go like, man, that guy really loves that guy, because you do everything for yourself. And all the mistakes you make, you think you don't. You always think you don't make mistakes. But once people start toning it up, it's like with my language. Some friends, they correct me every time. And then another person says, hey, that's annoying. I said, no, that's not annoying. I want that. Please keep doing that, because, I am, still mastering the English language. Yeah, I can, everybody can understand me, but I would like to be even better with it. So if I make a mistake, especially with grammar, because we structure sentences in Holland different than we do here in America, say it to me, because that's the only way I learn. I've been always a big, a guy who loves constructive criticism. I'm absolutely, at seminars, when I teach something, I say, guys, I truly believe this is the best way to do this particular thing. I said, now don't get me wrong. I'm human. I make mistakes. So if any one of you says, hey, boss, you can actually make that better, please show me, because if you can make it better, well, I'm going to get your name. And at the next seminar, when I say, okay, by the way, I used to do it like this, but this person told me it can do it better like that. And then I go with your way. But I don't think you can. But I challenge all of you to please do that, because then you're busy with it as well. Plus, if there is a better way, then I become better as well. It's a moment, as a fighter, it's very hard, because it's a very egomaniac sport. Everything is about you, because it's one guy in there. So a lot of fighters, they don't like to hear what they do wrong. But I always loved to hear what I do wrong, because then I can correct it.
That's refreshing, because you always had at the forefront wanting to grow more. So you were open to that criticism.
It's 100% the only way to grow. Good counsel, right? If you
Absolutely.
need something, like a friend of mine, he's a great actor. He's one of the lead actors on Mindhunter now on the Netflix show, Holt McCallany. And he's also like a method kind of acting guy, So he goes really into his roles. Like he did that movie, the underwater movie with Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr., but then Holt, right away, he gets his master diver thing. He goes 2 months, trains really hard every day, and then he was in Below. He was in a subway. He was the commander of a subway. He had to somehow, the script said that he needed to use a yo-yo. So he right away calls the world champion yo-yo, and he says, "Hey, can you spend a week with me? I'm going to pay you for it." And then he knows all these yo-yo tricks. If you don't know something, if somebody is better than you, always listen to that person.
Exactly.
It makes no sense if you don't. I mean, it's right there. The information is right there. Just ask.
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel, right? If you want to be great at something and you know someone that's already there, hey, learn from them.
That's it. That's how you have to do it. But yeah,
But you do have to
unfortunately,
have an open
people
mind
don't like
first.
to point out their mistakes.
That's true. That's true. That's why a lot of people are where they are, though.
Yep, that's true too.
So you've done really well post-fighting as a commentator. I know you were in covered the Pride FC fights in Japan years ago, and that's where I first started kind of seeing you as a commentator. And later you had the Inside MMA show with Kenny Rice. So what was it like for you doing commentating, and what sticks out in your mind about that experience in those days?
Inside MMA was always, for me, I never went a day to work. I really didn't. There was never one day that I thought, I wish that I didn't have to do it today. Not once. I always enjoyed going there, see Kenny rise, my buddy, and later with Mauro Ranello and the makeup girl Rachel, and everybody. It was such a big family. We would go out bowling together. We do all these things together, and it was just a really fun show. And especially also in the beginning when we did Strike Force, we were the commentators for that, and and Dream Japan. So we would fly to Japan, and it was such a great time, and so many great people. What the MMA world gave to me is so unreal. I can go pretty much any country on the planet, and I can pick up the phone. If I don't have money and I pick up the phone, there's always a fighter that I know, and I say, "Hey, man, can I room with you for a couple of days?" I'm 100% sure they will say yes, because I would say the same thing to them. You see what I mean? You get so many friends, and you all do the same thing. There's this camaraderie, man. Such a great time. Pride Fighting Championships. I mean, the times we had, you have no clue. Okay, so if you go from America to Japan, that means that you go to sleep early with the jet lag and you wake up early. So most of the time you're 4 or 5 o'clock, you're awake, clear awake. But then you have to wait till breakfast starts. Now, the breakfast in Japan is a breakfast unlike anywhere else on the planet. I mean, where we were sitting, we were at the Tokyo Hilton. That is the breakfast that nobody beat it yet. Every fighter will tell you the same thing who went there. Ask Renzo Gracie, ask anybody. And then what would happen, we would, remember I told you the nickname El Guapo? That was because all the fighters would be there. And everybody would have tape. And there were jokes and this, and everybody's laughing. It got so rowdy that they put us in a different room, specially only for the fighters, because it was a laugh fest. Nice. Everybody had a great time. The mornings, I mean, what a way to wake up in the morning, laughing, having fun, training, working out with the guys, and then knowing all these people. They become your friends. They go through the same stuff that you go through. The 10 weeks of training and doing, you can't do anything else but training and focusing, so that there's a really strong connection, and that's why they all go hand in hand together, these guys.
What an awesome time and era, and so great to be a part of that. I'm sure I can't even imagine what it was like being a part of that.
That's what I tell people. It's the best. My life is so unbelievable. It's like it's almost handpicked out, in the beginning with all my diseases and all the bullying, and I'm thinking it's a curse, and they curse me, and now I realize, well, it was given to me for a reason, and those diseases made me into the fighter, because I didn't like to be beat up. Oh, I saw a Bruce Lee movie. Oh, let's become like that guy. Boom, suddenly I knock out the first bully. And that's how it started, and then I realized, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. So now I became the bully protector. So every kid in school who got bullied, well, I will beat the bullies up, so, and then I went to the next school and did the same thing there. So I was the man right away. And, suddenly people start respecting you. And if you come from nothing, where people spitting you out the whole time and saying that you're nothing, hey, leper, watch out, your ears don't fall off. Hey, all these the things that the kids say, it's so hard. It's worse than beatings. And then coming out of it and then getting a career out of it, and then now from that career I went into commentating, into a TV show, and now I'm an American sitcom. My biggest wish that I ever wanted to be in a comedy sitcom. I mean, dude, it's an amazing life, but you work for it. Yeah. People go always, they say, oh, he got this and he got this and he got it. No, I didn't get it. I came to America within 3 months. I was taking acting classes at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. I knew eventually I wanted to do that. I know that is a profession. I know that I have to study that. You see, there we go again. You get good counsel. That's what you need. So I was already busy with that while I was still fighting. I always have a backup plan. When I was at home, when I was fighting the first year of Pancrase, I had 3 jobs. I was still a bouncer. I was working as a cook sometimes. And then I was working at the gym 4 days a week teaching. You see, and they say, why? You're making money. I said, but what if I walk on the street? Not even in training. I walk on the street, this guy is drunk, whatever, and he hits me with a car. I get a compound fracture, cannot fix it. What if I can't fight anymore? Yeah, but boss, that almost never happens. No, it does happen. Even when people say there is, with the Dumb and Dumber, I love that when they say, what are the chances you and I are going to date? Well, 1 in a million. What you're saying, there is a chance.
Yeah, I love that. Best line ever.
Yes, people win lotteries, or you never win. But how do people win then? If there's a possibility, I like to have it covered. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, your resiliency is amazing, and in your drive, you definitely seem like one of those rare individuals that has that incredible drive that when you set your mind to something, you are going to accomplish it. So, not afraid of hard work, and nothing ever just kind of came to you just, out of the blue. You set your sights and you worked for it.
It's what I said about people with my submission game. I lost my last fight against Ken Shamrock by knee bar. That was never going to happen again. That was it. I was so sick of it, but I didn't have anybody to train with. So then I found this one guy, and my poor wife. I would wake her up in the middle of the night. I would dream a submission, put her in the submission, and it hurts you there, right? Yeah, there. I would write it down. Next day in training, I would use it. The whole house, my wife got nuts of me. Post-its with combinations and transitions, and everywhere on mirrors and in the kitchen every time to remind me I'm cooking. Oh, there's 3 post-its in front. Oh yeah, don't forget this. Oh, don't forget that. Constant reminders throughout my house. 2 lines on the floor, shoulder width. I'm standing on those lines because that was my stance. I had an open stance, which gives you way more power in the left hand if you're an orthodox fighter, and the left kicks. Everything becomes stronger, if you stand like that. So I walked from room to room on those 2 lines. When I do something, I commit 100%. Like these people, 110%. No, you can't. 100% is the maximum. Right. But I go 100%. I don't go 99.9. I will go for it. But it's the only way. I never lost anymore. It changed my whole fighting career immediately. So if I can do it, you can do it. Trust me. Maybe some people even faster than me, and some people, they're going to have to work harder for it. But you know what? Those people have to work harder for it because mind-body connection doesn't work as good. Those guys are harder to beat than anybody else because they had to really work hard for it. So whatever it is, whatever time you put in, it will come out at the moment of fight. If you're so talented, and you see this a lot actually, you see really talented fighters. What is the problem always? They run out of gas. And the reason of that is because in this gym, they work circles around people. Nobody can get them tired. These guys, you just fly around, So the trick is to always make Shark Tanks. Like I also, to find somebody who could submit, it was a very hard thing. And find somebody who could put pressure on me in training was just in sparring, striking was a very hard thing. Okay, so how can we change it? Oh, Shark Tank. 1.5 minutes each opponent. Now I'm getting tired. And then start with the weakest opponent and then stronger. There's four guys, 4 fighters, 1.5 minutes each, 6-minute rounds, and try to do that. Try to do a Shark Tank with Oleg Taktarov, Mark Kerr, Pedro Hizo, and Marco Huas. Those were my guys. Wow. Now, good luck with that. You will be forced to become good because otherwise you don't survive it.
Wow, that's really putting yourself in the fire there, my friend.
Yeah, those were crazy times.
Yeah, but that's how you sharpen steel, right?
It really is. They all say it, but nobody does. They say, "Oh no, the training is the hardest. The fighting is the easiest." Yeah, right. Then don't run out of gas, man. If I see you running out of gas, how can you run out of gas if you just made that comment? Come on, the training. Yeah, it needs to be completely berserk. Yeah, and you need to go home almost in a half a coma, and only 4 times a week, because if you do it more, you overtrain. I mean, there's so many things that you have to watch out for and what food you take. And, so you have to really work hard for it. But everything where you work hard for, it's much sweeter if you win something.
So true. So true. So let's talk a little bit about your professional film career, something else you've excelled at after your fighting career. And you've done a number of movies, including Here Comes the Boom and Paul Blart, Male Cop, movies with Kevin James. How many have you actually done? How many movies? And what was your favorite, Bas?
Oh, I don't know how many movies I did. A bunch. A favorite, of course, was Here Comes the Boom, because that was my first supporting actor part in a big role. I did also a very funny movie that actually got me in this movie. It's called Kingdom of Ultimate Power. It was a short comedy that we did, and we won first prize at the New York Film Festival with it. And I was the lead in that, a Russian guy, Vlad Rivka, who came from Russia, wants to become an actor, finds a writer and wants him to write a script. But the ideas that I have are impossible to write. But the guy's very afraid of me. So it's a really funny little flick. And that was actually the little movie that Kevin James needed in order to say to Sony that he can do it, because Sony didn't want it first, because they said, listen, this guy is a fighter, he's not an actor. And it's a big part. And he said, okay, watch this movie. And then he showed the Kingdom of Ultimate Power, and that's where they gave the green light. And I could I could do the movie. And working with Kevin was such a pro. with acting, they say, "Oh, you did a phenomenal job." Yeah, but and again, you see, that's where it all comes. It's listening, because I can study a scene and I think this is perfect, but then Kevin walks over and he says, "Hey, Bas, great job, but think about this before you start doing the scene," and it would give me a scenario. And then I would literally blow my mind. I go, wow, why didn't I see that? That is so good. And then I would do it like that, and boom, nailing the scene, And then, so as long as you're open for constructive criticism, what we just talked about, you will do good at actually doing it, So if they tell you, also do it, because many times you say something, but they simply don't do it. But if you listen to it and trust that person, and you do it, and then get response, and people go like, whoa, dude, that was really good. Okay, now we're on to something. And then I start really getting into my own as an actor. I remember the biggest compliment because somebody told me, "Hey, Bas, that was an easy movie for you, right? I mean, you just played yourself." And I go, "So thank you so much," I told him. And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, that's actually the very first class when I was taking acting class. That was what the teacher explained. He says, at the moment that people are going to come to you and say, 'Hey, you just played yourself,' is the biggest compliment you can get. That means you're completely in your own skin. You're feeling great. So if somebody tells you that, then you did a really great job." So after that was with Here Comes the Boom. I did a whole bunch of movies on TV, but after Here Comes the Boom, they said, "Oh, that was just you." And I go, "Oh, man, thank you." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, my teacher said that's the biggest compliment you can give." So I loved it.
Nice. And like you said, it all comes back down to listening, to hone that craft as well. You were willing to be open and get that constructive criticism and hone that skill to a high level as well. You also are now part of Kevin's series, his show, right? Kevin Can Wait?
Kevin Can Wait tonight on CBS, Monday nights on CBS at 8 o'clock.
What's it like being part of that? And you guys have become pretty good friends, right?
Yeah, I met Kevin 20 years when I came into America. Within 3 months, he was... his manager called me and they wanted to meet me. He used to watch my fights together with Joe Rogan. They used to room together, and they used to watch my fights, Pancrase fights. And they were always intrigued. They said, "Man, that Dutch guy, the crazy bald guy with the boots," that's what they called me. And that's what he said. So when he found out I was in America, his management, that was his first season of the King of Queens. I remember visiting him, and I always tell this story because I think it's so cool. He lived in a one-bedroom apartment that he shared with his brother Gary, and it was across the street on Overland. I used to live on Overland in LA as well, at the Sony studios there. But now he's the man who he is now, and he's exactly the same person. He didn't change a bit. He has the same team around him. I mean, the makeup girl from him at King of Queens, she's now the makeup girl here also on Kevin Can Wait. So we go back, that's 20 years ago. Every movie we did, Here Comes the Boom, ZooKeeper, all these movies, that whole same team is there, and that just shows you what a great guy he is. And when he found out that Inside MMA was over, which filmed on Friday evening, and it was a live show, and because his sitcom tapes in front of a live audience on Friday evening, I could never do the show. So when I got fired, when the show got stopped, when I didn't have a job anymore, he called me and said, "Dude, you can do the show. Why don't you do a guest appearance?" So I came into the guest appearance. Then they called me back. He said, "Man, they really liked it. They want you to use you again." And so they used me again 3 more times that season. And that was the end of the season. But then he called me in mid-season. He said, "Dude, the network loves you. They want to bring you on board." So, now I think I already shot 12 episodes or 13 episodes. Now, and we still have 2.5 months to go. Yeah, it's the dream job. You have no clue. It's a job that I said 20 years ago. I believe Josh Gross did the interview for Sherdog. That was the smallest website at that time because it was 20 years ago. And he asked me the question why I was in America. I said, "For movies, what do you want to do?" "Well, stunt guys, acting, whatever. Everything is available. I like to do anything." And movies or TV, boss? I said, "Well, if I have a choice, TV." "Wow, that's weird. What kind of TV? You like fighting?" I said, "No, I would like to do an American sitcom." And he goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I like to do comedy. I think it's much funnier." We did comedy martial arts shows in Holland, also for TV. So why not? And then 20 years in the making, and now suddenly I'm in Kevin Can Wait. Man, I'm loving every day. I'm sitting in the hotel here. This morning we had our table read again, and tomorrow we're going to start.
So cool how things work out. I hated to hear the Inside MMA show was being canceled because I thought it was such a great show. But, one door closes and another one opens, and everything happens for a reason. And here you are living the dream you had so many years ago.
Yeah, you see, if Inside MMA wouldn't have been stopped, I still would have had a great show and I would have loved it. But this was my dream job. Like after fighting, to do comedy, make people. I mean, it's so cool now. Now people come up to me at airports. Yesterday again, is it really you? Is it really you? And I turned around because I just had a jacket. I received with Christmas. I received a jacket, a Kevin Can't Wait jacket, a little logo on the back, like a body warmer thing, and it's a really cool jacket, and it's really warm. And here in New York, it's very cold. And I literally had to turn around so she saw the logo on my back because she didn't believe it was me. She says, "You're so hilarious. Your character's so funny," And kids coming up, and then now it's like, you know me from fighting, or you know me from act? No, from Kevin Can't Wait, right? Or from Here Comes the Boom, and then the other person from fighting. But now it's more and more. They know me from TV or from movies. And that's so cool because that's the direction I'm in now.
That's very cool. Congratulations for that evolution and continued growth and achieving the dreams that you had, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, now and thankfully it happens now because I used to be a crazy guy. You see, now I don't get drunk anymore. Now I don't, all that stuff is gone.
Same here.
Get old. So it's the perfect time for me not to mess this up.
Exactly. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is you're a big foodie and actually a certified culinary chef, right?
Yeah, how crazy is that? Huh? That I'm
very cool.
Yeah, the French cuisine. That's what I used to do. I went to culinary school, and I always loved it. I still love cooking. It's a lot of fun to do. But yeah, there was time for a change, I guess. Suddenly, martial arts came, and I really enjoyed that. And I made the step to martial arts, not knowing because I became a bouncer first. Because how can you make money with fighting? There was nothing like MMA. There was kickboxing, but what do you make there? $2,000. Now they make much more money. But at that time, you were a really good fighter. You got $2,000. So it's there was not a lot of money, and then suddenly, thankfully, mixed martial arts came around. Chris Dolman, he was the first guy to stop me when I was doing one of those martial arts comedy shows, and he was from Holland. He was from the organization Rings, and he says, "Hey, listen, there's a new organization coming." First he asked me if I want to join his organization, free fighting, and he explained me the rules. And we would come up with like backflips and somersaults. That was the way we go up to the ring to do our demonstration. And he says, "Man, your athletic abilities, you should think about free fighting." That's what they called it at the time. And then we started talking. And I went one time, got my butt handed to me, and then one more time, and I had an injury here. And it wasn't really doing anything till he gave me a phone call. And he said, "Dude, go in the car right now. Come to Amsterdam. It's a long drive. There's two guys here, Minoru Suzuki and Funaki Masakatsu, and the owners and their fighters from an new organization, Pancrase. They have a tryout. They want to see you." And I got in a scuffle with one of the Rings guys, the fighters from the organization Rings. He tried to hurt me. So I told him in the 1 minute break that we had, I say, "Listen, we don't have to go hard, dude. They just want to see us being technical, And I think that he thought that I was afraid. So he started going harder. So then the second break I came and I say, "Okay, if you keep going, I'm going to do it back. That's the only thing I'm saying." Right, and he had this smirk on his face. He was knocked out within 30 seconds. I gave him a high kick. So, but it came over very impressive because he needed a whole bunch of stitches in his eye. So there was blood. And I saw the two fighters. They were pointing at me. They said, "We want him." And that was it. That's how I got the jobs. And I think 2.5 months later, I was in Japan. 93. September 21st, never forget it. 1990, crazy.
Crazy and amazing. All right, so let's talk about breathing, Bas. We have a mutual friend, Dr. Belisa Vranic, and she certainly has impacted my life as far as breathing goes. And I know you're passionate about breathing as well. So how did you get drawn into breathing and developing your breathing? And then we'll talk a little bit about your product, the O2 Trainer.
Okay, so I was, like I told you in the beginning, a severe asthma patient. I used to have asthma inhaler carried everywhere, an inhaler, and those were different inhalers at the time, not the ones we have now. Were very easy. No, that was a whole different ballgame. You had to puncture a capsule, and that would spin around on this little thing that if you would inhale, it would start turning around, and then it would spread out the powder in your lungs. But the problem with that is if you have an asthma attack, you can't inhale. So it doesn't really work. And I was always blown away. I was always also doing track and field. And I was hard on my way to become pretty good at decathlon. And really high jump, really great long jump, discus spare, javelin, they call it a shot put, everything I was doing really well. And running, every time I had an asthma attack in bed, and I would resume my track and field. After an attack for 8 days, 7, 8 days, not able to eat because I couldn't breathe. People always, they cough a few times. They say, oh, my asthma is acting up. I say, no, try to sit like that for 24 hours a day for 7 days straight. That's a whole different kind of asthma. And again, actually, by the way, at the time, I always thought about the people who have that, what I have only for a week. There's people who have that 365 days a year. You see, that's how I always overcame those kind of things. But what happened if I, after an attack, would resume my track and field, I would always be better at running. I would break my running times. And it freaked me out because then it would go away again. I couldn't do it again. And so what's going on? Is it the medication I'm taking? Until I went to the doctor's office one time and I saw a big poster on the wall. It was a drawing of a pair of lungs. And as a kid, you think that the lung infection is in your lungs, but it's not. It's in the airways going to the lungs. That's infected. So your lungs still work. And they showed a tube that was not infected, and next to it was a tube that was infected. And immediately I knew it. I go, oh man, I've been working out my lungs for 8 days. I've been training my lungs. I've been pulling air in through a little tiny area. So then when the infection is gone and my lungs are much stronger, it's much easier for them to pull the air, and that's why I can run better. Why don't I come up with something that controls the air intake? And that's been in my head for, well, I was 14 years old when I made that decision. And I started training with with coins with holes in them. You know, like France, they have coins at the time. Now it's euros, but at the time they had their own coins with little holes in them in the middle. I will put them in front of my teeth, and I tried to breathe through the hole in and out to the side, which of course is very dangerous because you got to open your mouth, and if that thing shoots in your lung, you're dead. You know, so. But it got always in my head, and slow over the years, you know, you go to parties and people talk about their invention. Oh, I have an invention. I said, well, I have a great invention, and I would tell them what it was, and every single person said, dude, you got to make that thing. Now, fast forward many years, for like 40 years, 35 years, I'm in America, and my friends all know the Ruttenizer. That was originally the name from the O2 trainer, the Ruttenizer. And they said, and what happened was on the Ultimate Fighter was, I believe, Vanderlei Silva was training his guys with snorkels. He let them breathe through a snorkel. And my phone went crazy. I like 6 friends called me or texting me, calling, and they said, dude, you got to make that thing. The Ruttenizer, you got to do it because they're going to come close. You know, people start thinking about it. So I started doing a pattern search and I realized that all my competition controlled the air in and they control the air out, which is not a good way to strengthen your lungs, which I knew already at the time, because if you can completely exhale, you always have air left in your lungs, so you start breathing more shallow. If you only control the air intake, then you can completely empty your lungs and use your whole inspiratory system again to fill them back up. So I had a patent. And then I started training with the prototype. 3 weeks later, my asthma was gone. I'm freaking out. And I go, there's no way. So I sent it to my buddy in Holland, who also has asthma, 1 week. He calls me, says, dude, I don't use my inhaler anymore. I want to sell them in Europe. So he's actually selling them for me now in Europe, and I'm selling them here. But that's how the idea came about. And I just made it into a product, and boom, suddenly here we are. And then you talked about Belisa. I got set up with her by Joey Diaz, and then oh my God, Shmelino Rama. I always said the first name. I call him Shmel. That's why. But then people don't know who I'm talking about. He set me up with Belisa, and I went to her office at Fifth Avenue here, and in New York. And the first thing that she did was measuring my expansion, my chest expansion. And she's getting so excited. She's looking at me. She says, no way, no way. And she calls in another doctor. She says, come and check this out. And I broke the record by like a full 2 inch or 2.5 inch.
Wow.
And how is that possible? I said, it has to be the O2 trainer, because what happens, the O2 trainer, if you put it on a really tiny setting, that's very hard to breathe in. You use that for breathing exercises. You have to use your diaphragm. You have to use the correct way of breathing in order to pull it in. A lot of people breathe with lifting their shoulders up, which is not a good way. You have to use your diaphragm, your intercostal muscles, you know, and this product forces you to do that the correct way. I say it has to be the O2 trainer. So then I brought one for her she fell in love with it, man. And it's such a great connection I have now because she's focusing also on the breathing out part. And we found out that if you separate those things, not together, if you do it together, it won't work. That's why my competition, it doesn't work. The results, that's why they have the bad reviews. But if you do, one time you do only 30 repetitions breathing in and through the O2 trainer, and you do her breathing exercises, breathing out, well, you're training your muscles, your ab muscles, because she uses a lot of her diaphragm. And yeah, you already know her. So, people don't realize, like her balloon thing, like filling up balloons, right? Using your ab, you have to breathe super fast and you have to blow up a balloon. And while you let that balloon to go empty, in your other hand, you have an empty balloon and you start blowing on that. And the record is like 150 balloons. I challenge people to do 5 balloons. 5, and see how your core feels. It's insane.
Yeah, it
and
really
then
is.
you realize, it's the same also with the O2 trainer. You do 30 repetitions the first time, you're going to have a very hard time finishing because people, that's easy. No, it's not easy. But you also will feel a week later, hey, wait a minute, it's much easier now. And then 2 weeks later, wow, it becomes really every single inhale is strong now. In the beginning, you get maybe 15 good ones, and the rest, well, you're going to have to keep doing. But it hurts your stomach, everything, your muscles, because you put them to work. So as long as when you start training those muscles, you take care of all the lactic acid. Everything is going to clear up. It's proven now. I have the medical test published journals. What the O2 trainer does, if you do 30 repetitions in the morning, 30 repetitions in the evening, takes about 4 minutes each. You do that for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, you can maintain it by simply doing it 1 time a day. You clear up all your lactic acid in your breathing. Now, people are going to go, what does that do for me? That does more for you than EPO, an illegal drug, will do for you. That will get all the fighters get tired, and the reason they get tired is because the core is constantly flexing, whether it's from blocking punches or, flexing the whole time, or takedowns, especially in mixed martial arts, or grappling, because your core is blowing up. Just as when you train your biceps, you're pumping. And the pump is also happening in your core. Not only forward, it also goes backward. And think about this. Your lungs are behind that. So now when that start bloating up with lactic acid, your lungs cannot completely inhale anymore. You're stopping it because your whole core is getting tight. Now, if you do those repetitions that I just said, you take care of all the lactic acid in there, you can keep going. It's an amazing thing. People are freaking out right now because the results are just insane.
Well, I can tell you're super passionate about it, and it's awesome. I love anything that helps people breathe better because, growing up, I watched my dad have asthma. I thought maybe I had it when I was young, so it's nothing like you went through, but I always felt like something was off, and it just never was good. And over the years, I tried to, always think more cardio. So I would try this or that or something else, and even got to where I could run. I ran, marathon, several half marathons, but I still would gas out easy on the mat and in training. So it wasn't until I even got into where I was a stress management counselor for cardiac rehab at a major hospital system and taught breathing for relaxation. But I still didn't have it as far as performance until I got involved with Dr. Belisa's work. So her stuff, your stuff, the things that help people breathe better, I think are just amazing and life-changing. So I'm very passionate about it too. I'm doing a program right now, Breathing for BJJ, which really helps people focus on strengthening those muscles as well and breathe at a lot higher level. So props to you for coming out with that and touching so many lives with that, Bas.
I just love it. And also, I read this article, a very bad review about my competition. I don't want to mention the name, but he had a really bad review. And my manager calls me and he says, hey, did you read the review? I said, no. He says, I told him, I said, it's horrible, right? And he says, yeah. I said, yeah, because they do it wrong. You can't control both ways. So anyway, I said, do me a favor, contact that person who did it, because it was a very smart guy. The guy has a higher IQ than Einstein. He trains Usain Bolt. He trains 3 other gold medalists. I mean, this guy trains everybody. So he calls him, he finds his address, and he says, hey, I'm representing Bas Rutten. And the guy goes, Bas Rutten, the O2 trainer. He says, we're already using that. So like people like the inspiratory muscle training, Usain Bolt, 3 other gold medals. So when I got that connection, and then I got Belisa, Dr. Belisa, who is, she's the leading expert. She's so good at what she does, and she's loving it. Now she puts me in contact with Dr. Potkin, who's a Russian guy who loves the O2 trainer as well. He's probably could be the best pulmonologist on the planet, like a very famous guy who loves the product as well. So now suddenly the last few months, I get all these connections from people who everybody loves it. And they're people who are really good in what they're doing. So for me right now, it's so exciting. It's such an exciting time. The only thing that's not exciting is that I only have 7,000 in stock, and we want to go on Dr. Ross. But I say I can't go on a doc. I need 20,000 of these things. So right now we're selling and reinvesting till I have 20,000 in stock, because I already popped so much money in there. I mean, $300,000. All the patents and everything. It's so much money that it costs to make a thing like that. It has to come back. But that's why I don't want to take any investors, because they want to ask 40, 50%. And I say, I worked so hard for it, put so much money in it. I'm going to do it by myself now. So I'm waiting that now until I have 20,000 in stock. And then I go with Dr. Beliza. Then I go with Chet Mashias. That's the guy who trains Usain Bolt and all the guys. Then we go as this whole clique on a Dr. Ross. Yeah, I think people are going to open their eyes. You know, what I don't understand with people is this. They go to a gym and they transform their body, right? In the 8 weeks or in 3 months, they look much better. They went from a 1.0 to a 2.0. They got new muscle. They got everything. Everybody forgets about their inspiratory system. What is going to fuel that new body? You did an update to it from a 1.0 to a 2.0, and you need to do that. You know, the average person, the survival rule of 3, this is what I always say in interviews, and I use it as a tagline in my commercials. The average body can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without oxygen. So it's the most important ingredient, so to say, that our body needs, yet nobody pays attention to it. And I think once people start paying attention to it and realizing that you sleep better, you can focus better, you're more relaxed, the stress is good. It helps not for fighting and conditioning, it helps for everything. Breathing is the number one thing in the body. If you make it stronger, you're going to go.
I 100% agree. My life is better than ever as far as the vitality, the strength, the vigor, just the health, and just it affects your mind, of course. Endorphins and just your outlook. Yeah, I can't say enough about it. I'm sold. I love it. I'll do this rest of my life, and I'm committed to spreading the word just like you. So people need to know how important and how awesome and life-changing it is.
Yeah, and another great thing is my wife was with me with Dr. Beliza also. So she took my wife to the side to start breathing with her, and my wife got all uncomfortable. And what happened was my wife was literally breathing the opposite way. Mm-hmm. She was when she was pushing her stomach out, she was breathing out, and in, I guess. No, out. She was doing the opposite. So once she taught her how to think, she got all like it got in her head, and she started to freak out. So then Dr. Beliza says, why don't you come? I'm in California now, Karen. Why don't you come to me? So the next day my wife went to her, and they started doing the breathing exercise. My wife is calling me. She says, dude, I feel so good. Yeah. It's such a difference. And it's just like one class with Dr. Beliza. You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah. So, it is amazing. Amazing.
It's amazing. I love it.
Yes, yep. And I'm fortunate to have Dr. Beliza working with me on the Breathing for BJJ product. So that's going to be incredible. So to sum things up, Bas, who's had the biggest influence or biggest impact on your life? And out of all the things you've done and accomplished, what stands out as what you're the most proud of?
Oh, man. I think looking up, my dad was a very hard worker. Got a really good job in the beginning, just a bookkeeper, but he got up bigger. But I saw what he needed to do for it, because he would come home at 11 o'clock at night. And that was because 6 o'clock he was done working, and then he had to go somewhere else for 5 hours to study. So he showed me that I have to do. My parents also never gave me money. They gave me money. Of course, they did a little bit. But if I wanted a bike, I was not going to get it from my parents. I get maybe half the money on a like Christmas or on a birthday, and the rest I have to make myself. They installed that in me. When I was a kid, 12 years old, I worked on the farm. I was at the farmer. I made a lot of money there, because it was by the amount you worked. So it was not per hour, but if you had a box filled with cucumbers, let's say, you get money for that. So I was really working really hard, making a ton of money with that. I had 3 newspaper jobs, that I did. I restocking in the supermarket. I always worked, and I think as a kid they don't do that anymore. Everybody's going to invent an app, and they all think they're going to be this next superstar. You need to work, because that's going to help you for the rest of your life. My training was much easier because I knew I have to work for something. So I translated that to training. Oh, it's much easier. And once you keep doing that, every job becomes easier, because you can focus and put your 100% energy in it. If you're used to that, it's an easy thing to do. But if you're not used to that, it's a very hard thing to do. So that's why it's good for kids to have a job. That's why my kids, one works in my gym, the other one next year is going to start working. We want them to work. We want them to work to get their own money, So with that said, my parents were a big influence on me. But then, of course, Bruce Lee, because I saw the movie and that was it. And then the way he thought, and I mean, I've been a super fan. I'm a super fan of Bruce Lee. And my wife makes the biggest thing. And it's not saying, oh, they always say that. You have no understanding. You ask any of my friends, they all want the same wife as I have. My wife is really, if you write down what you want to have in a wife, well, that's she. She did everything for me, always make good food. All these people trying the protein powers and all these crazy vitamins. No, just good food, dude. Water and good food. And she always cooked, make sure that I minimum 3 or 4 vegetables for my food. Leave me alone when I need it. When I'm in pain, she leaves me. She knew exactly when she had to step back. Man, she did so much for me. That's why now when I don't fight anymore, I told her, I said, I'm going to make up the rest of my life now to you, because I mean, I was a crazy man. As a fighter, you're just insane, and you're all over the place, and you're partying, because once it's done, you've been 10 weeks or 8 weeks completely straight, you need to unload, so
right.
that 3 days I will be done. And then after 3 days, I would come back completely messed up, and then 2 days rest, and then I would start training again, and she went through all that, and I'm so blessed she stayed with me. I always tell her I'm very happy she stayed with me, because there was many times that she said, you know what, you're out of control. I'm going now. So yeah, she's a big one. And the other question was, what's the most what I enjoyed the most?
What stands out that you're the most proud of in your life?
The most proud of is the fact that people say I'm a good guy. That's what I'm the most proud of. That and what you see is what you get with me. It's like I'll be exactly the same person as you always see. I hated these guys who are very funny on TV, and then when you're with them in the green room before an interview, they're into themselves. There's something wrong. I go, man, that's got to be very tiring to put an act on like that the whole time. With me is what you see, what you get. Oh, Bas is a nice guy. I think that's the best thing. I want to be a decent person who helps people. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good example. That is for me the biggest plus they can give me. Yeah, it's cool that he also could kick butt. I like that, enjoy it. But at the end, I think that would be the number one. Man, he was a funny guy, always helping people. That's a title I really would like to have.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. And you are a funny guy and a genuine guy. And you've entertained so many people throughout the world with not only your fighting skills, but through your TV and films and commentator. So really respect you, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for being with me today. And I wish you nothing but health and happiness and a long life, my friend.
Godspeed, my friend. Same to you. And thank you very much for the interview. Loved it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, really enjoyed that interview. Bas is such an awesome person, and it was my great pleasure and honor to interview him. There'll be a link in the show notes to the O2 trainer we spoke about, as well as the Breathing for BJJ video program we spoke about, which will be coming out in the very near future. Stay tuned now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
I don't know what that dream is that you have. I don't care how disappointing it might have been as you've been working toward that dream. That dream that you're holding in your mind, that it's possible. That some of you already know that it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard changing your life. That in the process of working on your dreams, you are going to incur a lot of disappointment, a lot of failure, a lot of pain. There are moments when you're going to doubt yourself and say, God, why is this happening to me? I'm just trying to take care of my children and my mother. I'm not trying to steal or rob from anybody. Why did this have to happen to me? For those of you that have experienced some hardships, don't give up on your dream. Their rough times are going to come, but they have not come to stay. They have come to pass.
Greatness is not this wonderful, esoteric, elusive, God-like feature that only the special among us will ever taste. You know, it's something that truly exists in all of us.
It's very important for you to believe that you are the one. Most people, they raise a family, they earn a living, and then they die. They stop growing, they stop working on themselves, they stop stretching, they stop pushing themselves. That a lot of people like to complain, but they don't want to do anything about their situation. And most people don't work on their dreams. Why? One is because of fear. The fear of failure. What if things don't work out? And the fear of success. What if they do and I can't handle it? These are not risk takers.
You spend so much time with other people. You spend so much time trying to get people to like you. You know other people more than you know yourself. You studied them. You know about them. You want to hang out like them. You want to be just like them. And you know what? You've invested so much time in them, you don't know who you are. I challenge you to spend time by yourself.
It's necessary that you get the losers out of your life if you want to live your dream. But people who are running toward their dreams, life has a special kind of meaning.
When you become the right person, what you do is you start separating yourself from other people. You begin to have a certain uniqueness. As long as you're following other people, as long as you're being a copycat, you will never, ever be the best copycat in the world. But you will be the best you could be. I'm telling you to define your value.
That everybody won't see it. That everybody won't join you. That everybody won't have the vision. It's necessary to know that you are an uncommon breed. It's necessary that you align yourself with people and attract people into your business who are hungry, people who are unstoppable and unreasonable, people who are refusing to leave life just as it is and who want more. The people that are living their dream are finding winners to attach themselves to. The people that are living their dreams are the people that know that if it's going to happen, it's up to them.
If you want to be more successful, if you want to have and do stuff you ain't never done before, number two, I'm asking you to invest in you. To invest in you.
Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. That you don't have to go through life being a victim. And even though you face disappointments, you have to know within yourself that I can do this. Even if no one else sees it for me, I must see it for myself.
This is what I believe, and I'm willing to die for it, period.
No matter how bad it is, or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it.
I want to represent an idea. I want to represent possibilities.
And some of you right now, you want to be, you know what I'm saying, you want to go to the next level. I want to counsel, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor. Listen to me. You can't get to that level. You can't get to the level economically where you want to be until you start investing in your mind. You're not reading books. I'm challenging y'all to go to conferences. I dare you to invest time. I dare you to be alone. I dare you to spend an hour getting to know yourself. When you become who you are, when you become the person that you were created to be, designed to be who you were designed to be, when you become an individual, what you do is you take yourself and you start separating yourself from other people. I challenge you to get to a place where people don't like you, it don't even bother you no more. Why? Because you're not concerned with trying to make them happy, because you're trying to blow up. You're trying to get to the next level. I need you to invest in your mind. Invest in your mind. If you still talk about your dream, if you still talk about your goal, but you have not done anything, just take the first step.
That you can make your parents proud, you can make your school proud, you can touch millions of people's lives, and the world will never be the same again because you came this way. Don't let nobody steal your dream. After we face a rejection and a no, or we have a meeting and no one shows up, or somebody say, you can count on me, and they don't come through. What if we have that kind of attitude? The car's repossessed. Nobody believes in you. You've lost again and again and again. The lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day, and say to yourself, it's not over until I win. you can live your dreams.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you feel like you're benefiting from the show and want to show your support, you can support us on our Patreon page, the link in the show notes. Please like and follow us on social media and help us spread the word by reposting our posts and telling others about the show. You can leave comments on the website at www.GJJR.com. You can also go to iTunes and leave comments as well as rate the show. And we would appreciate a 5-star rating, which helps us with our standing in iTunes. You can also leave comments on our YouTube channel. If you have suggestions for the show, please don't hesitate to give those. We always like feedback and suggestions. Okay, that's going to do it. So until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.